Give me your loudest of what you're growing. Like, laugh for me. Okay. Hello and welcome to Cinema Double Shot. I am Wallace McKelvey, a journalist and filmmaker, and this evening I've got the lovely, amazing, talented Amandine Pope, who is an actor, a mason, like actually building things, an artist, and a teacher, among many other things. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Wallace. It is a pleasure.
Yeah.
We've had a great time so far.
So we did something a little different for this episode because we figured, I figure because, in case the listeners haven't noticed, you are from France.
I am.
Bring us off a little French.
La cigogne a décidé de me déposer près de Paris, 30 minutes à l'est de Paris.
What did you just say?
I said a stork decided to drop me next to Paris, 30 minutes on the east side of Paris. And
Rather than 30 minutes on the west.
No, east.
East.
Yes. East side. I don't know how to do that. No, east, and I'm lucky she did. Yeah, this is so French. I mean, you guys know the storks bringing the babies, but because we have a lot of them in France, especially in close to the Alsace, which is an region of France that is next to Germany, they have a lot of storks.
So is France the origin of the whole stork thing? Babies arriving via stork.
That's a good question, actually. Now I need to look into it. Like,
I am always asking the most important questions.
I can. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
And I hate not having an answer. So, for sure, I will Google it.
This is scintillating conversation tonight at the Cinema Double Shot.
Yes.
So we did things a little bit differently tonight. We, the nuts are in my throat.
My idea. Bad idea.
Swallow the residue of the peanuts down. So tonight we watched a movie together, and we broke bread. We had dinner together.
We did. It was delicious.
Oh, thank you. We watched Agnès Varda's Cleo from Cleo de 5-7. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good job.
Otherwise, in English, Cleo from 5 to 7. Which is a French New Wave film from 1962 and one of my favorite films of all time, which you hadn't seen before, right?
No.
Yeah.
I had never seen it. So I had a feeling it was going to be in Paris, in Paris. But it was really weird to see Paris being Paris. But everything else was old.
Yes.
like Paris still looks the same from 1962. Well, which I can tell, like some stores and probably are not here anymore.
Yeah.
Buildings may have been renovated and things like that. But the old cars, the old fashioned, the old people, not necessarily old, but old looking people, because I feel like each era in time, people look a certain way.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of funny how people in old movies are the same age that we are, but they look 20 years older.
Oh.
They always seem older than they actually are.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like, I don't know what that is. Maybe it's because they're always dressed up. Like, just to leave the house, everyone wore a suit and a skirt and a hat.
Maybe the lack of chemicals in their food? you know?
Or that too. We're all well preserved.
I don't know, but it's true.
Yeah.
It is, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people were probably our age, but look, like,
Although another
life
factor
was
might
rougher on them.
Yeah,
Though we lived
life
through
was
rough
rougher.
times.
And people smoked a lot more. And
I
the more you
noticed that.
smoke, the more wrinkles you get.
I noticed that because they
Yeah.
hadn't discovered yet. I guess because of the movie, cancer is a subject, so they have discovered cancer, but they don't know yet.
So
that
maybe
smoking,
we should talk a little bit about the plot, which Cleo from 5 to 7 doesn't. It's not really a plot. It's more of a way to hang these characters, to kind of give you something to explore Paris with.
Yes.
Because it's simultaneously a character study, but it's also like a travelogue. You get to see a lot of pieces of downtown Paris, and even some of the outlying parks areas in this film.
She does a lot in 2 hours.
She does a lot in 2 hours.
Right.
So it's a real time story as this young woman who it seems like a little bit of a hypochondriac, based on her interactions with other people.
I was sold. I totally thought she was an hypochondriac.
Her assistant is very dubious of the idea that she might have cancer. But this young pop singer has, when we first see her, she has come back from the doctor's office. She's waiting to get the results of a test that she just took. And she thinks that she's convinced that she has cancer. Where the story actually picks up is in the middle of a psychic reading that she's getting. Someone is reading the tarot cards.
Yes.
Which is apropos because this is actually the set for Return to Me, the vid jam I did with the tarot cards and Lynn Stern as the psychic.
Ooh. Another one, because she read.
Oh,
Carol.
That's right.
That was Carol. Carol read.
I've had psychics in multiple vid jam short films now. This was the one before that one.
A pattern.
Yes. And this is one of my favorite movies. And it starts with a tarot reading.
It starts, yes, with a tarot reading.
You're connecting the dots.
That kind of almost make you feel like she's a charlatan, another French word.
Mm-hmm.
But she saw cancer in the card.
Mm-hmm.
Refused to say it, acting like, I can't, let's try something else. I can't see those cards very well. It's difficult.
Yep.
So, yeah, that was interesting.
Well, I kind of think, based on my experiences with psychics, and I haven't been to that many, so I don't want it to sound like I'm going to the psychic every weekend. But I've been to a few, especially there was one in Atlantic City when I lived there and worked there that was right on the edge of town in this old dilapidated mansion. It was super spooky and great setting for a film.
Ooh.
But I went there because as a child, when I lived in New Jersey, I passed by this place all the time when I was a kid. And when I was an adult and I returned to Atlantic City as a newspaper reporter, I saw the same psychic sign.
Okay.
And I was like, there's something calling to me. I have to see what this is all about. And it was kind of a disappointment. The person, it felt like a parlor game where the person kept on making guesses about what my life was like because she was trying to prove to me that she had insight, and she kept saying things that were just either patently false or so vague it could apply to anybody. It wasn't a great psychic reading.
Okay.
But so I have this little affinity for psychics and especially in the context of movies.
Yes.
I think it's a fun dramatic device to include a psychic reading because of how fraught it can be if the person believes it, as in Seance, the jam that I did with you.
Totally fraud.
Your character, though, really wanted to believe that the psychic was true.
Yes.
And your sister, played by Maria Tate in the short film, is a natural-born skeptic, and she's looking for reasons why where the psychic might trip up, that it's not true. And
she was on it.
But both of you kind of get what you were looking for.
Yes.
You know, I think there's a lesson there in, like, if you go into an experience looking for something, no matter what it is, you're probably going to find it.
This is very true. No matter what it is, you will find it.
Have you gone to psychics much?
Oh no,
Okay.
because I learned the hard way. I was very into esoteric things when I was young, and so I think by the age of 12, I started doing what we call cartomancy in French, which is like the reading of the cards, but not the tarot cards, the basic 52 playing cards.
So you take playing cards?
Yes.
Okay.
And I had a whole book and everything, and I was very, very worried about my great-grandmother, and so I remember that night we were at my mom's friend's house, and the adults were outside talking, sitting, enjoying the nice weather, and I was inside, my little 13-year-old self, trying to read like the cards and see what was going to happen that summer. And I had, I remember it was the 9 of, what is the dark one? The black.
Clubs?
Not clubs, the other one.
Clover. The
no,
one that she
clubs, actually, clubs. Because
Yeah.
clover, it's the trèfle.
Yeah.
Okay, no. And upside down, and it's in that, I think, or at least the book that I had and I had learned from was death.
Oh.
So I just...
That's pretty heavy.
So I started crying.
Oh.
Like getting all like very Cleo, very dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom coming in, what's going on? And me telling her, Mommy's gonna die. And she was like, what are you talking about? I saw it in the cards. And I mean, it sounds so funny until the fact that she passed away 3 weeks later. And I was done with cards. So
How old was she at the time?
91.
Oh, that's not much of a prediction.
But the timing, so it made me stay away from psychics and everything, cards, reading and everything. I was like, no, let's not mess up with those things, and so that was hard because I mean hard and not hard, because then a part of me was prepared because I really believed. And a part of me was prepared, and so when I went to summer camp, I said my goodbye to my great grandma, and I was like, okay, you know, and so I was ready, you know, to confront that when I come back, she will not be there. But my family didn't want to break my heart during my vacation, and told me, no, she's fine, you'll see her. And
oh wait, so she died while you were at the summer camp?
She did.
And your family lied to you?
Because I asked the day before I came back. Finally, I called and I was like, "Oh, is she okay? Is she?" And I knew. I mean, I had worked up. I was like, it's fine. That's the last time I saw her. I told her goodbye, and she kind of whispered something in my ears. There was her own goodbyes. So I was at peace. But then I just asked just to make sure, because maybe I'm wrong. Because I've been also very sensitive in general, sensing things, and my grandfather was like, no, she's fine. I mean, ups and downs, but she's fine. So I was like, wait, I'm gonna see her again. So then my hopes get all up again, and I arrive, and my 7-year-old sister in the car after picking me up from the train was like, so all the family is well, and Mommy's dead. Okay.
How old were you when this happened?
13.
Okay.
That was, yeah.
So in the wake of that, you have not messed with anything like psychic paranormal?
Not until the past year.
Yeah.
I have a dear friend, so I was like, oh, let's do like a little tarot reading. But I really try to not.
Yeah.
I'm not, this is not, I got traumatized.
You got burned.
I got burned. And I'm like, I don't want to know.
So your belief in it actually kind of drew you away from it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm
very gullible.
I would say I'm not a skeptic of tarot or psychic, mysticism at all. I think there's a lot of stuff we don't understand.
I do agree with that.
Yeah.
And we do not have the intelligence or not maybe intelligence or capacities. I don't know, but there's a lot of things that. I mean, look, they used to believe that atoms didn't exist because we couldn't see them.
Yeah.
Until you invent the microscope. And then,
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of things is like that. We do not have what is required
if you get deep enough into even science, you will find phenomenon that you still can't explain. Once you get to the outer reaches of our scientific understanding. Yes. Like quantum physics blows my mind. The idea that an atom can be so energized and moving so quickly that it can simultaneously be in two locations at once. Have you heard this before? It's
no.
Like it's like wormhole theory.
Yeah, no, those things scares me. Space and no.
But like if
very terrestrial and just.
If you accept that an atom can be in two places at once, then you also have to accept that there's probably other things we don't understand.
Oh, yeah.
That maybe one day we will understand it, but it's also possible that it will forever be beyond the limits of our understanding.
We're limited creatures. We're smart, but very stupid as well. So we'll see if during this lifetime of ours, I'm pretty sure we're going to see some crazy times. I've known it since I was young. I'm prepared for the apocalypse, but no.
We're going there.
I don't know. When I read Robinson Crusoe or something like that,
yeah,
I just became obsessed with like survival things and just.
I remember reading that when I was a kid. It doesn't have to be
the apocalypse, but it could be. You don't know. Something messed up. We don't have electricity. Ha ha. What do we do? Back to basics. So it's like I've always been fascinated for those things and always remind me like you're not ready if something happens. So, which. It's kind of productive, knowing that
I tend to believe that we. I have a kind of Eastern philosophy toward that idea of everything's kind of cyclical. Life comes in cycles, and the one thing that we can count on is that we will endure some degree of suffering.
Oh.
Regardless, no matter how wealthy you are, no matter how poor you are, no matter how well prepared you are or you think you are, inevitably life will come at you and you're going to have to grapple with it. Which, circling back, is kind of the theme of this movie.
Yes. Yes. Right.
Because Cleo is, she starts off screen, going to the doctor, getting the lab, and then being told, come back in 2 hours for the results. And by implication, the viewer kind of fills in the timeline if you're following the story. Apparently, the thing that she does right after talking to the doctor she goes to a psychic. Right? Like, based on the chronology as it's laid out in the film,
she does.
She goes to the psychic and is looking for some kind of guidance, either comfort or certainty about what might be coming.
Yes.
And the psychic lies to her, apparently. You know, the psychic, we get that little scene after Cleo has left the psychic's office. Oh, yes. Where she opens the side door to what I assume is her husband or something. So too, yeah. And he's, you know, she has this little exchange with him where she basically says, "Oh, I couldn't tell her what was going on." And you're like, wow.
She's like,
do we?
The cards showed death, and I saw cancer.
You're like, okay, all right.
I was like, oh. And right after, she goes straight to the cafe
to meet with her I think assistant. I'm not sure exactly what relationship
kind of
that
like,
is,
yeah,
but it's simultaneously it's kind of like an older sister relationship because the assistant is really intimate with her.
Yes.
And doesn't seem to be afraid to like call her on her bullshit.
No. And kind of calm her down, like,
yeah.
Don't be overly dramatic. Like.
But in some ways, the way the movie opens, it's a litmus test for the viewer. You know, do you believe in the mystic telling Cleo what she told her, or do you believe what is being presented to you about Cleo, that she's maybe a little bit of a hypochondriac, maybe exaggerates things?
I totally thought she's overly traumatic, and like I was telling you in the film, she is a singer, a pop star singer, but she acts like an actress. Like a very diva-ish actress. And it kind of took from me away the part of like just that little ounce of credibility of like a woman knows her body. You know? Yeah. And never I considered that fact. That, you know, okay, she's a little over the top. She's a little too much in her feelings because she goes from crying to laughing to, I'm the most beautiful, but what if I'm ugly? I mean, but I think I got so into that side of her that myself, like her assistant, completely discredited the possibility that what she's feeling, despite her being so extra, there's truth. She knows what she's feeling in her body. She knows there's a problem.
And in many ways, you know, I think this film I think it's obviously a feminist film, but Agnès Varda, the director, kind of forces you to confront the way women, and in this case, this particular woman, but the way that women are viewed, because she kind of forces you to observe the protagonist being observed. How many shots are there of Cleo walking on the street, and then all the men just turning to look at her? And
women just staring like, where are you from?
It feels like she's constantly under observation and constantly being critiqued.
Well, yeah, I feel like sometimes as women, that's how it feels.
Yeah.
Like, it's, what's the word? It's exacerbated because of her being also so physically different. And paler, blonde hair, when everybody on the street she looks like she's the only blonde around. So of course it's gonna attract the looks, but it doesn't. For a woman, I feel like it doesn't need much, you know. Even though she looks very different than everybody else and dresses and
carries herself.
Yeah. Like
she wears heels that whole movie. If this were actually Cleo from 5 to 7, and she did as much walking as she does in this film, girl, you've got plantar fasciitis right there.
And some of those sidewalks are not
even
concrete. It's those little pave and those little
cobblestones.
Cobblestones. So could like I was impressed. But you know what? I really enjoy this movie. You know. But I get so upset with the subtitles.
Oh.
Because there was so much subtleties, so much playing with the words and using words and expression that rhymes. And I mean, it's a completely different thing, like je t'ai monté, je t'ai menti. And you're like, wait, what? And it's so many times I told you, I'm like, man, I'm so upset with this subtitles.
Honestly, I'm so glad that we watched this movie together, because it is one of my favorite films of all time. I've seen it at least 3 times,
wow.
Going back to, when I was a teenager. And this is the first time I'm getting to watch it with a French native speaker. So there were like at least 3 or 4 different times when you tap me on the shoulder and you're like, hey, that's a double entendre right there. And I never knew it. Never registered to me.
And the first one was pretty awesome. I loved it.
Well, explain that first one for me again.
So the first one, they were talking about that woman that was, what's the word? Parachuting?
Yes. Yeah.
So it's kind of like you're sending yourself in the air, and then you just jump. But s'envoyer en l'air, like envoyer en l'air, it's like throwing something in the air. But s'envoyer, which is reflective, s'envoyer en l'air, it's kind of a way of saying having sexual pleasures and intercourse and everything. So she plays on those words, saying that why a woman would send herself in the air if she's not forced or obliged to. So kind of saying, I think it, the sexual freedom of women, and probably not always being in control of their sexuality, more depending on the man's desire, the husband's desire. So I just thought the way it came out, it was like a beautiful way for probably an assistant that is also we don't know if she has somebody in her life, but it was like, why would you
it tells you
go
something
through that if nobody's telling you to?
It tells you something about the assistant character.
It's hard
because
to translate.
It's the assistant character who's making this kind of double entendre, questioning why would you throw yourself in the air / have sex if you don't have to. It tells you something about her character.
Yes.
It also tells you something about Cleo that end their relationship, that the assistant feels free enough to have this conversation with her. And also, what do we observe from the vantage point of the assistant? Cleo has like a revolving door of men coming in and out of her apartment for the first 20, 30 minutes of the movie.
Yes, the lover.
Yeah, there's the lover. There's the several songwriters who seem very familiar with her. And then there's a series of men who just ogle her on the street while she's walking with the assistant.
The songwriters scenes is full of
wordplay,
linguistic jams. You could tell giggling and laughing when you're reading the subtitles, you were like, what's he laughing for? But because it was so well written, and I told you that too. Like, sometimes it was even like poetic.
Mm-hmm.
At times it was comedic, but it was. No, I really enjoyed it. I thought there was a long time. It's been a long time I haven't watched like a French movie when like that language was so, my also native language was so nicely used, and because it's a very, we have a lot of literature and a lot of philosophers and things like when it comes to the arts, whether it's written or painted or sculpted or French.
Amandine
I'm still French.
Personally invented
The
this.
cinema.
But yeah, the Lumiere brothers.
So it's like when it comes to the arts or poetry. I was gonna say poetry and everything. It's like
it's also just such
it's
such a beautiful language to listen to.
And it is so beautiful to speak. I was so obsessed with speaking English that I never realized how beautiful French was. The way we have to say some things that there's no way in English. So sometimes I just literally translate it and people are like, what? And it took me to come in the US and have to speak English every single day to be like, man, French rocks.
Yeah.
Like, it does. And it kind of also rekindled with my desire to teach it, which I've wanted since I was a little girl. I went to college to become a French teacher for English speakers.
Yeah.
And now I'm back at it, so it's pretty cool. Like,
that is very cool. Well, do your plug. How can people find you if they want to learn this language?
Oh, if you want to learn French, well, first the accent is also on the conversational French because, let's be honest, you can learn French now pretty much anywhere. Duolingo, which I will not advise, or the apps, but if you want to join some group classes with other people trying to learn French and conversate together, because that's the thing that I have the emphasis on, the speaking.
Yeah.
Because it's always the same. Oh, I've taken French in high school and this, but I don't...
I mean, I took 3 years of Spanish between high school and college.
Okay.
And I can understand it. I can translate it in my head pretty decently if I'm overhearing a conversation in Spanish. And I can kind of like very rudimentary, like I can have responses. It's very slow and my vocabulary is incredibly limited. It's like talking to a toddler. Right? But I'm not conversant in it. I would never be able to carry on a conversation in Spanish. Right, and that's the American kind of school system, unfortunately.
And
we start too late to really, and we don't have a robust system of learning languages here.
That too. For the English. So I'm the same in Spanish. I understand it very well. Plus, it's a sister language. That's how we call it in France. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a sister language to... It's
a Romance language, right? That's what they call it.
Yes. So having studied Latin, a little bit of... It took 2 years. That was too much for me. Latin. But then speaking French, having learned Spanish, I do understand some Spanish. Not all Spanish, but half, I will say. But I also understand a little bit of Portuguese and Italian. I do not speak it. Though I have some very close Hispanic friends, but they will not speak Spanish with me. They'll just stick to English because, that's where we talk here. Yeah. But if you're interested in some French lessons, cultural or practicing the language, or even join a small group and created a community, because it started with classes, but I want to take it
You have bigger ambitions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like French movie nights or things like 14 Juillet, Bastille Day is coming up. So
Ooh.
there's events in Philly or DC where the embassy is. So maybe closer, who knows, we can start our Alliance Française here in Harrisburg, because there's a lot of French speakers in Harrisburg because of a pretty important African community.
Mm-hmm.
And like there's like a third of African countries was colonized by, so it's about probably 20 something. There's 66 countries in Africa, so about a third of it speak French. So
yeah.
And so if you're interested, you can find me on Instagram or Facebook at O French Corner. So O is A-U, like au revoir.
Or for the American
A-U.
English speakers, A-U.
I didn't even realize I said it in French. I was like, let me spell it so they get it. But then I spelled
Nope.
That's the bilingual bilingual brain. Like sometimes it's so confusing. I've seen this meme. It's like bilingual.
So A-U or A-U.
Yes, A-U. French Corner. Au French Corner. There's also a website, so you add .com at the end.
Which I will add links to all this
it's
in
all
the description.
On it, you can learn. I put some little videos and pronunciation and everything. But no, the classes I started not too long ago. We having a lot of fun. My students love it, so that makes me even more like excited. I try to be very personable and find ways to make people understand, quick and practical, or just use, a lot of image. I can't find the word, but kind of paint a picture for people to get it. And sometimes I realize that, oh man, that was
and I
works.
think conversations are the best way to learn a language.
Yes.
Like reading it from a book is not going to I don't think that's a way to have that really steep and sink in. You have to be able to have that back and forth dialogue in order to really know a language and to feel confident in it. So we have all sorts of stereotypes about French people in the United States. You know them. Yes. The idea that, French people are kind of stuck up and standoffish and all that.
Not at all. We love manners. That's the thing. We love manners.
A part of it is like the French love order.
Order and manners.
Yeah.
So
they're a little bit tied to decorum. Everything has its natural place, and you have to come correct.
And we don't sugarcoat.
Mm-hmm.
We find it extremely hypocritical.
Yeah.
To sugarcoat, which got me. Oh, I was not used to that.
Yeah. Is that something?
For so long.
Is that part of it that you don't miss living in America now? Because in America, here's the deal. Like, people can be hypercritical, but usually not to your face.
Oh no! I learned. I learned the very hard way, because I'm like, oh my gosh, Americans are so nice. They're so sweet. They're so that's all fake, and that's why I'd rather have like a little Frenchness on that, because we'd rather. Tell you like it is and everything. But once a French person is your friend, like, we don't. At least all the friends I've had or things like that. In the people, all the people I've encountered, and I know it's like, we friend for life. We don't. There's no backstabbing. There's like rules. Like, it's different. So we might be at first very defensive when we don't know people, because people can do anything. Human beings are very surprising in
Yeah.
good ways and in very bad ways. So, but then once we realize, okay, you're fine, then it's well. And there is manners, like, and that's so funny because I keep telling everybody when they go to France, like, don't forget to say bonjour, hello, when you first address a person that you do not know. And what did I do? The last time I went back to France, totally American, I saw a man coming out of the lake with what looked like a wolf. Not a dog, not a husky, but a wolf. And I was just so like, wow, that, you know, which things I would have never done if I had stayed in France. But America kind of, you know. And I went to the guy and I was like, is this a wolf? And he looks at me, bonjour, and walked away.
You broke the rule.
The rule that I teach everybody. And I was like, I can't be upset. True.
I went to Paris.
Are we something else, Paris?
Yeah, like at this point it was almost a decade ago.
Yes.
But I went there with a college friend of mine, and this is just general. Whenever I'm traveling somewhere and the majority language is not English, the thing that has gotten me through without having to learn the whole language, because it's just not possible for me. But I learn like the key phrases. I learn like 10 key phrases to get me through any kind of initial conversation. And what I found was like the French people that I encountered, and granted, didn't go to the countryside where there are fewer English speakers. And I explored neighborhoods, but it was mostly in Paris. It wasn't too far out of the way where it would be crazy to see an American, right?
Yes.
But every conversation I had, except for the person in the booth at the train station who was super, like, kind of rude, but is also, like, in America, people in booths at train stations are also rude. It's just the nature of their job. But everyone that I encountered was really kind and open and warm and friendly. And my thing was, I came correct. I said bonjour, not because I knew to do it, just because like that's the first thing you should say. And my whole thing was I would start in French. Usually by the first word, the person that I was communicating with would immediately pick up, oh, they don't speak French. and I would try to muddle through a little back and forth using my limited vocabulary. And at a certain point, they would like almost metaphorically just like pat me on the head and be like, good boy, we can take this from here with English. But if you do that, and when you're in a foreign country, it's like a sign of respect that you made the attempt to reach out to them in their own language, with their own like values and mores. And that kind of made all of my interactions pretty, like, really friendly, very positive.
Because that's something I've heard so many times in France is like, well, why coming in the country if you don't speak the language? Especially people that stay.
Yeah.
Not just that come to visit and vacations, but people are like, oh, I'm going to migrate to France. And it's actually one of the requirements if you want a French citizenship. You have to
speak the language.
You have to be fluent in French.
Wow.
Written and spoken, or you cannot become a French citizen.
Yeah.
And
it does feel like there's a lot of national pride in France.
Yes, we are.
For good reason.
And I'm still proud. And even though I took the girl out of France, I cannot, like, you know, I've been Americanized a little bit, but I cannot take the friends out of the girl. Like, I'm a protester. People will know when I'm not happy with something or when I feel like something is not right. Like, it's, I can't help it. It's the culture. That's where I was raised in, and I've protested many times.
The French hit the streets.
Yes.
A lot.
Yes.
Like they're famously, they almost like every year there's a major labor protest.
Because it's different. There's always something different. So when it's the farmers, they'll be dumping the manure all over the highways. If it's the train workers, they will block.
Yeah, I remember the big train strike from, was it the aughts or the late 90s? They were probably multiples.
Strike is a right that they take gladly.
Yeah.
They do believe in the strike. And this is how most of our change happen. And sometimes it needs to be done a little better, because there's time where it's not really impacting the government what you're doing. It's just annoying everybody else that's trying to go to work or something. But there were ways where, we had a completely different education before 1968. May 68 became like a huge... I wasn't born, so definitely wasn't part of it. But it was like one of the biggest protests from, students and teachers and everything. And they got what they wanted. Like, things change. And we do believe that if you determine and you come as a people and you hit without violence, I mean, we got violent too, right? But you hit where it hurts.
Yeah. So
pockets or access to means, at some point, you get what you want, because the power is in the people. If we don't spend our money, they don't make money. If we don't vote for them, they're not elected. So that's what I've always voted. I've never missed. Plus, it would have been a shame. I was raised in a family, a lot of women, and I've heard we fought to vote, like especially grandma and great-grandmother. Yeah. So it's your duty. It's not even a right, it's your duty.
I'm not sure how America got to the place where it is, where it doesn't have those. I've never, the idea that, this is your civic duty. This isn't just your right. You have to do it. In America, we don't really have that. Of course, everyone's different, and there's lots of very patriotic people who do vote every election, but there's not like a widespread sense of duty that you're responsible for each other. It's a lot of individualism. I'm looking out for myself.
It's a big country. France is smaller,
True.
No, and well, isn't it? But you guys don't. It's not a direct vote, right? Or is it?
No, it's not a parliamentary system.
Over there, it's like you put the name. There's no. I'm
and
voting
there's the
for that person that's
college.
Going to. We don't have that.
Yeah.
It's direct. It's directly the people. You will put, Macron or whoever is against him, and then they count those votes. It's not about who was elected, because we feel like that gives rooms for corruptions or weird things. So it's the direct vote. We vote directly for the president. There's nobody in between. It's the people from
Were there other French movies you wanted to talk about?
I really miss French comedies. Like, the wording and the thing is just so good. I had one of movie that I really loved. I mean, I went 3 times in the movies to watch it by the third time I knew it by heart. Because the second time I brought my little recorder. And I recorded the whole movie.
Like a podcast.
Listening to it. But it was so good.
What movie is this?
The jokes, La vérité si je mens 2. So it's technically the title means The Truth If I Lie.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think very few Americans have probably heard of this movie.
Oh,
I know I
no,
haven't.
and it's like it's about it's when they had the first movie that was funny too, but the second to me.
What's the basic plot of it?
The plot is a small business of fabric owned by Jews. So everybody is Jews. So maybe not a great time. No. But
is this a period piece or was it contemporary?
Yeah, like pretty actual.
Okay.
And they were trying to save their fabric company because of the big chains.
Oh, okay.
The big store, like chain store chains, or like now creating, and that was movie in the 2000s. So, and the little Jewish fabric store of the corner, or even like of the town, could not compete with kind of like now it's happening with Shein and Temu, and you got everything.
Yeah.
So.
And then before that, Walmart coming in and taking all the businesses from Main Street.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's about it and them finding a way to incorporate. So like, okay, well, if we don't close, we need to make a deal with them.
Mm-hmm.
But the deal is not good for them because, when big...
Yeah.
chains are getting into it. They just take your ideas because they really wanted their ideas, their tailored suit and everything, but they were going to be screwed, and because that's what I keep thinking big farmers, but it's not big farmers.
It sounds like a very political film.
Yeah, and so,
in that way.
And then I don't, I don't think everybody will watch it, so can I spoil it?
Go for it.
I hate spoiling it.
Spoiler alert.
But they sold this little outfit,
and
the way to be like, yes, we're gonna make this amount of. It was like a whole suit, so the top with the skirt for a woman, and we're gonna make this tremendous amount of it. And they were like, we are screwed. How are we going to do that? But one was like, hey, measurement. If we write the measurement, because it's a film made by Jews, about Jews, trying to
keep their business alive.
Yeah, but with little Jewish tactics.
Okay.
So, and which I'm not Jewish, so I can't, but it's kind of like, like when the people make a movie about themselves, but kind of also mocking some of the biggest stereotypes about themselves and everything. So they decided to completely, to put the measurement very tiny. And so instead of like a normal human being suit, like attire, it was like a doll, like Barbie doll thing.
Okay.
And so then they sold their thing, but they got all that money, and at the end, the big chain realized that, wait, what? No, we get it. You are dead. And then the lawyers checking in, it says millimeters instead of centimeters, or something it's. But the whole movie, the lines, the punchlines, it's just hilarious. Hilarious.
Well, you might need to introduce me to this movie. I introduced you to Cleo from 5 to 7.
Yes.
You should introduce me to this. Now, I will say, comedies historically are the most difficult to translate from one culture to another.
I could tell today.
Across the board.
I had a hard time. I was like, I don't know how to translate, because sometimes there's no
Easy translation.
equivalent.
Yeah.
Like,
Especially if it's a pun.
Yes.
Or a double entendre. Like,
that play on words.
Yeah.
That words that rhyme in your language that
don't
not
rhyme in someone else's language. Yep.
So
Yeah.
it makes it really hard. Then there was another really movie that maybe it's known, The Big Blue. I would translate it like that, Le Grand Bleu. I think it was Luc Besson, actually. It was with Jean Reno.
Okay.
This is one of my favorite French actors. They had a very good comedy movie too, called The Visitors. So it's like French, but Middle Ages.
Okay.
Two guys from Middle Ages, and then they're kind of descendants in actual time that, for whatever mistake, gets switched.
This kind of sounds like an Adam Sandler style movie. The equivalent.
I have seen.
It's very high concept.
I have seen. It's older than Adam.
Okay.
And I think I've seen something that kind of look like, because there's some French comedies that were remade in the U.S., like The Birdcage.
Yep. Le Cage aux Folles.
Like Cage aux Folles, yes. Yep. Or like, The Three Men with the Baby.
Oh, yeah.
It was French originally.
Huh, I didn't know that.
Then this one, not a lot of people know, but it's like that little Indian kids being brought to the city. I had to look it up at one time, and
I know they recent. I wonder if it's Belgian. Anyway, The Untouchables, was that a French film?
Les Intouchables, yes, I think.
Yeah. Anyway, that got remade, and the remake isn't very good, but that's okay.
Yeah, we have.
But the French film industry is massive, like, especially considering the size of the country.
Yes.
Like, it is a massive industry, which part of that has to do with what you described before, the colonial aspect of it. There are lots of French speakers in the larger world, so the audience isn't just France for these movies.
And our movies are not just only in France. Like, we are more aware, whatever it's musically, about other cultures. You know, I was surprised when, like, the last time I came back over there, how much, like, Arabs, and I know some Arabic songs, very popular in France, but it's even more now, and a lot of African beats and things that are, some never make it to the US. A couple recently, I was surprised. One guy kind of like made it, but it's
France has been multicultural
culturally, like,
for basically since its founding, modern founding. Like, it has always been a relatively diverse culture, in part because of the imperialism. Right?
Oh yes.
Like, you go overseas, you take land, and then inevitably you bring those people start coming back to the homeland.
A lot.
Yeah. I mean, it's even referenced, the Algerian war is referenced in Cleo from 5 to 7.
Like, oh yeah, it was in the early 1960s.
Yeah.
And Algeria actually won.
And Cleo,
and
I think,
their independence.
I think Cleo was before the independence and before all of the big protests that happened. So, like, Agnès Varda, who we didn't get to talk much about, but she was pretty with it in terms of politics and savvy. Like, she did a documentary about the Black Panther movement in San Francisco, like in 1966, 67, like pretty early in the founding of that movement. So anyway, that's a whole other conversation.
No, it's a whole...
But the director of Cleo from 5 to 7 is really a fascinating director and character in her own right.
Wow.
She did a bunch of documentaries when she got older where she was the protagonist. And she was this delightful, warm-hearted, funny soul who, would do these playful, inventive things with the camera. And you see some of that in this movie.
Yes.
Even compared to the other filmmakers from the French New Wave, a lot of Truffaut and Jean-Luc Godard, it was always like cut. You always were hyper aware of the camera in their films. It was very, let me show you what I can do by editing. This movie, to me, it feels like you're just walking through the streets of Paris.
It gives
it
really
doesn't
that
it doesn't manipulate you that much.
That, like you said, documentary feel. Like that it's more you coming along.
I love that. I love that feeling.
It was a very nice, a really nice film. Thank you.
Thank you for
having
for coming and watching a French film.
Thank you for making me discover a French film. Like, I know there's plenty I haven't seen, but
yeah. Well, next time I'm gonna come over to your house, and you've got a gaggle of kittens now.
Yes.
You can show me your favorite French film,
Ooh,
and we'll have a movie night there.
I gotta find it. I will.
I'm sure it's available somewhere. It's streaming on something.
Yes.
Even if it has to be underhandedly.
I've discovered a VPN. So.
And give your handle another shout out.
Oh yes, so you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook. #OAU French Corner. TikTok is au.french.corner. And also I have a website if you want to know a little more, www.ofrenchcorner.com.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us for Cinema Double Shot. If you like this setup, if you like having these conversations, share them with your friends, listen to us on all the podcast platforms, and watch us on YouTube. And everyone, be kind to each other.
Yes, and power to the people.
Take care.